Commander Torres arrives at the outpost and begins assessing his new team. He notices Alina in the armory, methodically maintaining a Barrett 50 caliber rifle with unusual expertise. When he questions her role, she deflects, claiming she's just an equipment specialist. Torres finds her name in old classified reports, but the details are redacted. Part 2. During a surprise attack on a supply convoy, Alina is forced to take a defensive position. Torres watches through binoculars as she makes impossible shots at extreme range, saving the entire convoy. When he confronts her afterwards, she reluctantly admits to her military background but downplays her achievements. The alien warriors, particularly Kree, begin showing her unusual respect. Part 3. Torres digs deeper into Alina's record with Dr. Mill's help. He learns Alina holds the human military record for longest. Confirmed kill at 3,200. 48 meters during the Battle of Arcturus Ridge, she. Retired after that battle, due to trauma from watching her spotter die. Torres realizes her psychological reports show severe survivor's guilt. Part 4. A major insurgent offensive threatens the base. Torres must plan a defense, but their intelligence shows. Enemy commanders operating from a mountain position over 3,000 meters away. Alina refuses to take the shot, claiming she's not that person anymore. Torres struggles between respecting her trauma and the reality that hundreds will die without her skills. Part 5. The attack begins and casualties mount. Alina watches from the medical bay as wounded soldiers and aliens arrive, including young Marines she had befriended. Kree is severely injured defending an evacuation point. Dr. Mills tells Alina that sometimes the living must carry the weight of the dead by continuing their mission. Alina returns to her rifle. Part 6. Alina takes the position and begins eliminating enemy leadership at impossible ranges. Torres provides spotting and realizes her gift goes beyond mere skill into something almost supernatural in its precision. She makes the killing shot at 3,400 meters, breaking her own record. The insurgents collapse without leadership. Afterward, Alina finally accepts that her gift is not a curse, but a responsibility, and agrees to train others while Torres ensures she receives proper support and recognition. Themes: the weight of extraordinary ability, healing from trauma through purpose, human exceptionalism in precision and dedication, cost of survival and honoring the fallen, finding redemption through service stone, respectful military realism with emphasis on the psychological cost of combat, and the quiet strength required to face one's own capabilities. Full story: the transport shuttle touched down on New Havana with the grinding shriek of atmospheric brakes fighting against red dust and thin air. Commander James Torres grabbed his deployment bag and stepped onto the ramp, watching the alien sun cast long shadows across the outpost perimeter. Prefabricated structures stood in defensive formations while guard towers bristled with automated weapon systems. This was his new command, a joint operations base at the edge of controlled space where humanity and its coalition allies held the line against insurgent forces that wanted to push civilization back into the dark. Torres had earned his reputation leading SEAL teams through water landings and zero-gravity assaults, but this assignment was different. The brass wanted someone who could work with alien species, coordinate multiracial units, and hold ground that conned forces found too expensive to maintain. He had studied the roster during his 3-week journey, memorizing names and service records of the 40 humans and 20 coalition members under his command. Most were standard military profiles, solid professionals with respectable service histories. Then there was Alina Reeves. Her file was thin, almost suspiciously so. Equipment specialist was her listed role with a mundane service record, showing logistics postings and armory duty. Yet her name had appeared in classified after-action reports he had seen years ago during advanced training. The details were always redacted, but her name lingered in his memory like a half-forgotten song. The base commander. General Robert Hayes met him at the landing pad. Hayes was old-school Army with gray hair, cut military short, and eyes that had seen too many wars. They shook hands, and Hayes gestured toward the command building. "Welcome to Paradise, Commander. I hope you enjoyed the flight, because that might be the last comfortable moment you have for the next 18 months, Torres smiled. I have seen the casualty reports, General. This sector is heating up. Hayes nodded as they walked past rows of armored vehicles being maintained by mixed crews of humans and Draken warriors. The Draken were reptilian bipeds with scales that shifted color based on mood and body temperature. They were natural fighters with incredible reflexes and a warrior culture that meshed surprisingly well with human military traditions. The insurgents are getting bolder. They hit our supply lines, probe our defenses, and fade back into the mountains. We need someone who can take the fight to them, not just hold ground. That is where you come in. They entered the command center where holographic displays showed terrain maps and unit positions. Hayes dismissed the watch officer and closed the door behind them. There is something else you should know, Commander. I requested you specifically because of your reputation for unconventional thinking. We have an asset here that previous commanders did not know how to use, or were afraid to use. Torres raised an eyebrow. What kind of asset? Hayes pulled up a personnel file on the display. Alina Reeves appeared in the photo, a woman in her early 30s, with brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and gray eyes that seemed to look through the camera rather than at it. Her expression was neutral, almost carefully blank. She came to us 6 months ago, requesting a support role. I pulled strings to get her assigned here because I knew what she could do. But she does not talk about her past, and the previous commander respected that perhaps too much. Torres studied the photo. What am I looking at, General? Hayes leaned back against the desk. Alina Reeves holds the longest confirmed kill shot in human military history. 3,248 meters during the Battle of Arcturus Ridge 4 years ago. She was a Marine Corps scout sniper, attached to 3rd Recon Battalion. In one engagement, she eliminated 14 enemy officers and crew-served weapon operators over a 6-hour period. The insurgents could not advance, could not coordinate, could not even figure out where the shots were coming from. She saved an entire regiment. Torres felt his pulse quicken. Why is that not in her file? Because after that battle, she watched her spotter take shrapnel from a mortar round. He died in her arms. She carried him 3 kilometers through enemy territory to evac point, then resigned her commission 6 months later. The Corps tried to keep her, offered her everything, but she was done. Her psychological evaluations showed severe trauma and survivor's guilt, and now she maintains equipment at a firebase. Hayes nodded. She requested it specifically. No combat roles, no command, nothing that would put her behind a rifle again. I approved it because I thought eventually she would come around. But 6 months later, she still spends her days cleaning weapons and inventorying supplies. Torres turned away from the display thinking. Does she know you are aware of her record? I've never brought it up. Neither has anyone else here. The troops think she is just another specialist, maybe a little odd but competent. Even the Draken do not know, though. Kree, their squad leader, seems to sense something about her. Those reptilian bastards have good instincts. Why tell me now? Because in 2 weeks, intelligence suggests we are going to face a major offensive. The insurgents are massing in the mountains, and when they come, it is going to be everything we can handle. I need you to evaluate whether Alina can be brought back into active service. Not ordered, just given the option. If she says no, we respect that. But if she says yes, Hayes let the sentence hang in the air. Between them, Torres looked at the photo again, studying those gray eyes. He had seen that expression before in the faces of operators who had gone too deep into the darkness and could not find their way back. Some people broke under the weight of what they could do. Others simply stepped away before they became something they could not recognize. Where would? I find her now. Armory Building 3. She works late most nights. Says it helps her sleep. Torres picked up his bag and headed for the door, then paused. General, if I do this my way, it might not be what you expect. Hayes smiled without humor. Commander, I brought you here because you do things your way. Just remember, she is not a weapon we can simply load and fire. She is a human being who deserves respect regardless of what she decides. Understood. Sir, Torres left the command center and made his way through the base as evening fell. The alien sun was larger than Earth's standard, casting everything in shades of orange and red. Off-duty personnel moved between buildings, some human, some Draken, and a few from other Coalition species. There was an easy camaraderie in the way they interacted, the natural bonding that came from shared hardship and common purpose. He found Armory Building 3 near the southern perimeter. Inside, the air was cool and dry, with rows of weapons racks and maintenance stations. The smell of gun oil and metal polish filled his nostrils. At the far end of the building, a single figure worked under bright LED lighting. Alina Reeves sat at a bench with a Barrett .50 caliber rifle disassembled before her. Her hands,